Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Kelly Driscoll. In this episode, you'll hear part 2 of my conversation with Sally Fortenberry from TCU. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app.
You are about to hear part 2 of our conversation with Sally Fortenberry from Texas Christian University. Please be sure to listen to our previous episode to hear part 1 of this conversation.
I'm curious if you have heard from some of your graduates as they have gone out to do interviews and meet with potential employers, how their ePortfolio may have been beneficial to them in that process.
Well, the first thing that I've heard from graduates is that most recruiters are surprised that fashion merchandising majors have a portfolio first. So that's exciting because that should elevate their, just who they are. And, they're taking notice of the fact that the student has actually a portfolio and they're in fashion merchandising. The other thing that the student has been surprised about is the fact that recruiters do look at digital examples of students' work. So we know we have heard about companies who actually do social media checks on any of their interviewees.
Sure.
So this is as similar, although it's not social media, it's actually showing the student's work in a much better light, but also illustrating to that recruiter, the student, and how they put all of this together. So many times those recruiters will say, well, I checked out your portfolio before you came in, and I was very impressed by XYZ. Can you tell me more about that particular project? What did it entail? What are the skill sets that you use? Or that was a pretty impressive project. I'd like to know more about it. So it's a way to open up that conversation even more for the student. And of course, they'll come back and say, the student will to me is that I'm so glad I had my ePortfolio because otherwise they would not have been able to see all of this work that I had done in advance of my coming in for an interview. And maybe I wouldn't have gotten the interview.
Right.
Yep. Right. So that's one thing. Recruiters, their responses have always been, in this day and age of wanting to make sure that those people that we hire, whether it's for a temporary basis as an internship or on a long-term basis for a full-time position, we need to make sure that that fit is such that that individual is going to stay with the company, fit with the company, and be a contributing factor for the company. But more importantly, having that ePortfolio, traditionally, a resume says very limited information. The portfolio substantiates that which is on the resume. So the resume being a one page, and if that resume says that I have certain skills, that ePortfolio shows how those skills were applied. Whereas otherwise, you're just taking the word of the individual that they know these skills and they've applied those skills. So it is really a confirmation that the student legitimately not only has those skills, but can use those skills in a productive manner to generate results. Classroom project, yes, but that's what work is. It's projects. So
Right.
we're applying it to projects whether it's in a classroom or at work. So the recruiters, most of their feedback to me was number one, it's nice and it's exciting to see merchandising majors have portfolios. And number two, I like to see that they've substantiated the fact that they actually can use these skills. And I just am not taking their word for it on a resume, but I can see the work that they produce. So.
Right. And do the students share, once they start to create that more kind of public-facing view of their work, do they include their reflections as part of that?
Oh, yes, it is there. So in essence, the reflections are part of each project. And again, it's almost as if they're evaluating themselves and the project and what they gain from that project and how it's going to be applied for future purposes. I don't know that recruiters would read all of the reflections. They're probably just looking for specific projects. So if a student were interviewing for a buying position, they may be looking for those projects that were completed in buying, or if the student actually has included that in their portfolio.
Right.
So most importantly, they would say, okay, well, this student says that they have Excel skills. So I'm going to look at their ePortfolio and check out these projects under their buying class or their advanced planning and analysis class and see how they've applied their Excel skills. So they may pick and choose just as in the tangible, to go to the places where they want to see evidence. But there are recruiters, since they have it in a digital format, have the ability to actually look at it all and read it all and be able to draw their own conclusions, because reflections also reflect critical thinking skills. It reflects writing skills. It reflects personal analysis and evaluation. So it's not just talking about the project itself. It's really digging a little bit deeper into how does that student think and how do they consider this project in its application to their career.
Right, right. And I think also oftentimes when we're in communication with schools and they're kind of thinking through the career portfolio, sometimes they think that the reflection may be too personal, and we always encourage that to be shared. I think it's another place where the student has the opportunity to share their story, and it could be a story of challenge, it could be a story of failure, just as it could be a story of success and celebration. And I think all of that is important information for those that are thinking about making a hiring decision, because once you're out
Certainly.
working in the field, things don't always go smoothly, and every project
Exactly.
is an opportunity to learn something new and take that information into the next project. So I'm happy to hear that the reflections stay intact when they get ready to take them out to share with those in a more public kind of capacity. You mentioned some of the upperclassmen kind of maybe making even different versions of a portfolio. What is that process like?
So, because our degree plan is so diverse and it covers so many different areas of the industry, many of the students, if they are specifically looking for, say, a creative position, they may just copy that which will reflect those creative skills. So there's kind of a rule of thumb in terms of resumes and cover letters. You really want to target those resumes and cover letters to specific positions, if at all possible. It should not be generic. It should not be, okay, well, I'm going to use one template and that's it. And so the ePortfolio can also be targeted. And that means that if under those learning activities, they could actually focus on all of their creative skills. And there are enough classes that they'll have plenty of projects and plenty of ways in which to really showcase and illustrate those creative skills. So they may just want to focus on those, although I think analytical skills are used in every position. But if it might be that they're going to just kind of load up on more of those creative projects, even in many classes. And yeah, like several classes, they'll just have more of those creative projects. And in fact, I had one student whose ultimate goal really was to go to graduate school in design. And there was an expectation, a requirement that she have an electronic portfolio, and it had to illustrate her creative skills. And that means not only her creative thinking skills, but also drawing skills, illustration skills, um, you know, fabrications, her textile knowledge, textile skills. And so she was able to actually just take those things out of her original e-portfolio that she'd used for her internship and pull out those things that she felt were most significant for this particular creative portfolio for a very competitive graduate program that she was competing with people, students that may have been working in the industry in design
Right.
or had strictly a bachelor's of fine arts in design. She wanted to make sure that she was considered just as highly as those individual students. And so she didn't have to start from square one. She could actually just copy over to a second portfolio that which she wanted to keep and to use. So, and it was successful.
That was my next question. Did she get in?
She did. And in fact, Central St. Martin's, which is very well known for their design program, is where she ended up going in London. So,
Fabulous.
Yes,
That's
but very
wonderful.
competitive, and they don't take a lot of students, and they want to make sure those students have the skill set to really excel and are not going to struggle, but they know that this is where they want to focus, and that's their passion. So it was very exciting. So she was glad to have all of this information and material to be able to showcase her skills.
I bet. Well, Sally, I really appreciate your time today. Was there any final thing that you wanted to share about your experience today?
Probably just the fact that I think e-portfolios are, well, I believe portfolios, not think, but I believe that e-portfolios are really a way to allow students, and again, I'm saying allow students, but sometimes we have to encourage and motivate and prod these students to look at all that they are able to do and to accomplish within a specific major so that they aren't as petrified about talking about themselves. I find students, especially currently, so for the last 5 years, many of them are challenged to really talk about themselves in a manner of their skills and knowledge and how it applies to the workplace. Now, that might be because they may not have a whole lot of work experience, so they're not seeing, okay, how would this apply? Maybe they haven't gained the experiences that they need to have to be able to see how what they're learning is really applicable to so many different fields and to so many different positions. So I do not like the fact that some students will say, well, we don't need this. I think it's not a matter of needing it. I think it's a matter of benefiting from it. So they are, in essence, adding to their education by developing this portfolio. They are enhancing their education by really looking at and critically analyzing what they have learned, what they have accomplished, sometimes it's an aha moment and they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was able to do that. It was so challenging. It was so difficult. And when, I thought about the end game, I thought, never, I couldn't do this. So it becomes a way of just, reflecting on accomplishments and then being able to, pat on my back and say, hey, I did that. Now, that was my goal to graduate from college, and that next goal is, of course, to get a full-time position. And in between, I was able to get an internship and some part-time work, and all of these things just culminate into who they are and how they can contribute in the industry. And I think more than
Absolutely.
ever, students have got to be able to just intelligently talk about themselves and talk about their skills, their knowledge, and how it's going to make a difference and how they can make a difference based on that which they've learned. That which they have been able to gain through a college experience. And to be honest, they have the benefit of going to college, and I think they should celebrate that benefit and use a platform that allows them to really show off and showcase and say, hey, look at all that I've done, and not be shy or embarrassed or timid about doing it.
Yeah. And you bring up a really important point about this kind of validation
Hmm.
in what they've been able to accomplish. And
Hmm.
looking back with that kind of culmination of experiences, really being able to see how much they have grown
Hmm.
and how much they have accomplished, and how much they have created during a really relatively short period of time.
Exactly. Hmm.
And when they're kind of in the middle of it in the day to day, it can be hard to kind of see that growth happening.
Hmm.
And, when we were starting to create Digication, one of the things that we had always hoped was that students would really see the value of their experience during their time at school. And by seeing their, um, the kind of whole person that they are developing throughout that time, they would have that confidence that in their
Right.
abilities and their growth and their strengths that they could then take out into the world. And you
Hmm.
made a point of saying, that the impact that
Hmm.
they will have, they will make a difference. And
Right.
having that kind of validation and knowledge about themselves when they do get asked about who they are and what they want to do. I think you've probably seen that the kind of level of confidence that they have in talking about themselves
Hmm.
has really grown as part of this process.
Oh,
Yeah.
certainly. And I think that the most important takeaway from a portfolio, it's not necessarily maybe just the portfolio, but it's the process of
Yes.
developing the portfolio and the ability to look back and to see, from first year in college, second year, third year, fourth
Right.
year, and just be able to say, wow, that was that was impressive. I've done a lot. I've accomplished a lot. So,
Yes.
and it allows us as faculty members really to also be able to see where we might have holes. Where
Hmm.
are there gaps that we're not meeting the needs of these students based on their own personal reflections and
Right.
based on maybe their goals for the future. Is there something that we're not actually providing them while they're in college so that they can be better prepared? I mean, we can't do everything, but we can certainly try to touch on it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
developing curriculum is a
yeah.
process too. So.
Yes. Yes. Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but you're exactly right. Having this kind of insight into the student experience
Hmm.
is hugely beneficial to the department, and kind of knowing where they could do better,
Hmm.
right?
Certainly.
So thank you for sharing that, and
Hmm.
thank you again, Sally, for your time today. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful learning more about your department and what your students are doing, and you're doing great work over there.
Well, thank you, Kelly. It's a pleasure, and I love education, and I just hope we will be able to continue, and our students will
We will
continue to
be there for
embrace it.
you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Digication Scholars Conversations is brought to you by Digication, a technology platform powering the most innovative ePortfolio programs in K through 12 and higher education. Our website can be found at digication.com. This episode was produced by Drew Albanesius and Amanda Driscoll. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for watching.